Okay. Okay, hang on. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to another presentation of the Associated Student Speakers Program, Campus Events. Appreciate your patronage. And as you know, as an appropriate follow-up to this event, Madness will be here tomorrow night. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, be sure to rush down to the West Center and get them. Our guest today is a singular phenomenon. Not only did he survive the 60s with extensive investigation of assorted substances, he still embodies the spirit of that generation, turning no adventure down. Whether it be Grenada, West Palm Beach, Florida, Colorado, Las Vegas, or Hawaii, Dr. Hunter S. Thompson stands prepared to turn out his own brand of twisted craziness. Okay, well, if any of you would like to know more about this twisted craziness, there is a table at the back of the ballroom featuring his books such as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, The Great Shark Hunt, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, and his newest book, The Curse of Lano. Today is the first of 8 nationwide dates that our guest will be doing. We are very honored to be the first stop, and we're very honored. UCLA is honored to host the man who was described by William F. Buckley as eliciting the same kind of admiration one would feel for a streaker at Queen Victoria's funeral. Would you please give a warm UCLA welcome to Hunter S. Thompson?
You have an opener. Oh, thanks. Well, I'd like to be as high as that introduction would indicate I should be. It's a bum rap to come out at noon, have to go out and straight in a crowd like this. I understand there are a lot of fascistes and neo-Nazis in the audience. Yeah? All right. Yeah. Well, that's good. I last time I was here, it was a more, kind of a wimpy, liberal campus. It's good to know that you people have finally gotten stride. What, Moonies? Many Moonies, right? Yeah? Okay. All right, well, let's see. You have to give me a minute or two. You people don't seem to be in a really political mood today.
Why don't we start out with the election business, the 84 elections? You seem to have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, I've been brooding at length on the elections. How many of you plan to vote in the presidential election this year? This is a rough. At about half. About half?
Approximately.
And do I assume properly that most of you who plan to vote are going to vote for Reagan? Yeah. What? Larry Flint? Is there anybody here who vote for Jesse Jackson, for instance? Okay. I just want to get a fix on the mood of the crowd. Yeah, that's maybe necessary. The question here that asks which candidate I think would be most qualified. And following that is Mondale, and then a note saying, is he the prostitute he appears to be? It's kind of a circle. I like Mondale, actually. I would vote for him. But I think really in this election, the the only person who's going to beat Reagan, and that does interest me, is Reagan himself. And I believe that process began about 2 weeks ago with the Lebanon business. And in my case, it's sort of a situation of my worst fears being confirmed, where you think the president is nuts. He is a senile, giddy old man. He thinks of himself as some weird cross between John Wayne and the Sun King, and that, you know. And then basically he's not on my side. That's I've rarely felt the president really is on my side, but in this case I know precisely. When Ed Meese, a former prosecutor in Berkeley in the '60s, who has a lot of grudges to settle for sure, when he's appointed Attorney General, and when a genuine fascist, a working Nazi out of Colorado, Joe Coors, when he's even half considered to replace Meese as the person who works with Reagan on a day-to-day basis in the White House, I think he was turned down. But even though he put a billboard outside of the window that Reagan could see as he looked sweeping his gaze sweeping across the lawn, there was a Coors billboard somewhere, just to remind him that. But I think we're talking about a situation that it is going to clearly get more dangerous, because I don't believe this president can accept any more humiliations by Arabs, or I'm sure, there's the vision of the president of Egypt standing in the press room of the White House, flogging the president, and insisting that the Israelis must leave Lebanon, and that the PLO, in fact, must come back in, was an unusual one. And I don't think that, I think basically that people in this country will accept a fascist president as long as he does a good job. And you get to a thing, say, comparing Grenada to Lebanon. Nobody argued about Grenada. And it really wasn't an ugly war, not a war at all. But I don't think people in this country were ready to see us chased out of the Middle East and to have the president hiding in some weird compound in Santa Barbara the entire week, and people appearing on the TV screen with their black bars across their eyes. His advisors, no one wanted to take responsibility for that policy. And all we could see of the president was at the far end of some telescopic lens, a half-white horse running in circles with this old man clinging to it. And Larry Speaks, meanwhile, in the White House, trying to make sense of what the president either wanted to say or couldn't, because the Joint Chiefs of Staff had, in effect, overruled him on Lebanon. And it's very dangerous to have a president who is even more militant and more demented than the generals that we think of as basically your bottom line right-wing militarist, and every one of them was opposed all along, and then publicly, to the Lebanese fiasco. And I think 4 more years of that, of using the military for political purposes, would be, as a gambler, I would bet that we would not get away with it, because one more defeat like Lebanon, which we're looking for right now with the trying to warn the Iranians to not blow up the Straits of Hormuz and kill off half the world's oil supply. We're committed to doing something there, and that something could be the use of tactical nuclear weapons, because we clearly can't fight these Arabs. There are not enough Marines to go in there and control the Lebanese, and they these new missile launching destroyers they built at the cost of $50 billion or $1 billion apiece, 50 of them, have a success ratio in target practice of something like 1 in 19 shots. We're not prepared. We saw what happened with Lieutenant Goodman. They sent planes in after the battleships couldn't hit the targets, and the planes were shot down. So and looking back to Carter's invasion of Iran the first time, when we tried to get the hostages out, we've had bad luck in the Middle East. And it's it's an open question whether the country would vote for war if it were if it came up as a proposition on the ballot. I'm not sure, but there would not be much of a vote in favor of a losing war, and I think that's the point we've come to with Reagan, where if he's going to fight a winning war, that's fine, but the evidence suggests he's not going to, and therefore we have to consider another hideous defeat and bringing nuclear weapons into it. I've been talking for way too long. Let me. What do we do?
Well, can we talk about the Pulitzer story that was in Rolling Stone a while back? Can you give us any follow-up remarks on that, or just some of your basic impressions of what you saw down in West Palm Beach, Florida?
It's hard for me to even talk about that without massive amounts of drugs. Oh, if you knew how much I hurt, how much my body aches for massive ingestions of drugs at this hour of the morning. That was one of the most fun stories I've ever been involved in. But these were really world-class degenerates, and it was yeah. Oh yeah, right. Okay, I'm feeling better already. We should take a break here in a minute. No, it was nice to go to Palm Beach and get deeply involved with people who really were prepared to go right off the edge at all times. I have dealt over the years with a lot of dope fiends, a lot of fiends of all kinds, people who are given to excess. But I don't think ever, I'm thinking of perhaps in Australia, before they really knew what cocaine was, there were only 2 people in the country who sold it. They were pretty excessive for the use of it. But then they learned that you had to cut it and things like that and cheat. But outside of that, I've never seen any crowd anywhere just utterly and massively and aggressively abuse a drug like people do cocaine in Palm Beach. And one of the horrible jokes about it was that the coke was awful. It was a weird mixture of speed and aspirin, and it became a matter of honor. You couldn't leave a house until whatever bag was brought in was finished. There was no question of at 5 grams an hour with 3 people, and chattering, screeching, kind of feeling all the time, and then have to go to court the next day. Appear to sit there and get completely ruined and jabbering and raving and sweating and full of fear and in and out of pools and eating things all night, talking about Palm Beach justice, and then to make that weird shift to be in the courtroom at 10 o'clock with the same people you've just been amuck with all night long, denying they'd ever heard about cocaine or knew each other for that matter. I just happened to be there, Your Honor. I don't know. I saw her once. Yeah, that was me climbing out of the bedroom, but I don't know. I did that all the time, watching the windows. And this went on for weeks. And well, for me, it was a steady process of just getting crazier and crazier. And then it got to be fun. I got to like the people. I liked them anyway. You know, they were really, in terms of the kind of crimes you see all around us, they were innocent people. At least in Palm Beach, the rich have their own island with a lot of bridges, and they can do just about whatever they want out there and not hurt anybody else. Sometimes they launch forays of crazed rich people into the mainland, but in the main they stay by themselves and just get crazy out there. And it's kind of harmless, but it's, I guess the jump we had to make was to go across the bridge into West Palm Beach in the morning. It was like going into a different world. Lake Okeechobee? All right, thank you. Yeah, it is there. Do you have a random question about the? Let's encourage this line.
The microphones are at the
side.
at the sides of the ballroom, so feel
Who has
free
a
to
funny, curious
stand up
question?
and ask a question.
Where's Laszlo?
Dead. It's all right. Dead.
We'll have one in a moment. Okay, right over here to the right. Your question?
Hi.
Yes.
Right over here. There she is. Sorry
All right.
about that. There she is.
How are you? Good morning.
Do you enjoy writing political type of pieces more, or writing things more like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I'd much prefer to write things like Fear and Loathing in Vegas. But there's a part of me, what I like about politics is not so much writing it, but following it. It's an addiction. It's like gambling on cockfights or even football. I enjoy following politics, but the idea now of going out on the campaign trail and covering every primary from now till June is, to me, really horrifying. But the interest in it's almost a perverse interest. I'd like to see Gary Hart upset Mondale, for instance. Under different circumstances, it would be possible for Gary to win in New Hampshire. He has a McGovern problem, which is justifiable. Anytime George McGovern runs for president, he has my vote. He's the one of the most decent and just human people I've ever run across in politics. But I don't think George has a chance of being the nominee. Gary does have a long shot chance. But in reality, I think we're looking at Mondale as a candidate, if only because of the primary process, which is going to make it difficult to change things after New Hampshire and that Super Tuesday. So outside of the excitement, I think the real issue in this election is getting Reagan out of office. The president is the issue. I think for entirely selfish reasons, even for the young Phalangist League and the Fascisti here among us. That's what we're talking about. And I don't even take it personally. I'm not sure what kind of a position I would be in if it were proven to me and obvious that aggressive, kind of brute-like, atavistic behavior by this country was maybe the best and most successful way to go. The profits would be up, and everybody would roll over and hide from us, and that all the rest of the world respected us like they respect the dollar. But I believe there's a difference. I don't think people Arabs are buying dollars over here just because they like us. It's, I think, the example of Syria in the Middle East, which just decided to take us on. There was sometime in the past year or so, there was a meeting somewhere, probably in Damascus, and somebody said, well, those people are not as dangerous as we thought they were. Let's blow up their embassy. Let's blow up the Marines. Let's kill the president of Lebanon and see what they do. And someone gambled and won. And the rest of the world has noted that. And I think 4 more years of that could get us in the kind of trouble that I don't really think we want, no matter what kind of political persuasion we have. I believe that whether having the New Jersey the battleship over there shelling civilian areas with 16-inch guns is right or wrong is something we can put aside for the moment. But I think it's a stupid and dangerous thing to do. I don't think you can fight wars in the Middle East without being at least competent. And everything we've done over there has been a hideous joke. The Carter raid on Iran, where the helicopters crashed into each other, people were fried alive in the air. Just embarrassing. And I think that just as even the stock market recognizes the ineffective nature of just blundering around and pulling the Marines out and lying about it. The president hiding in Santa Barbara. These are all small things, and I'm sure you've heard them. But they'd be funny if it only lasted for a week or so. But the idea that this giddy old man is going to run amok after he's reelected, and we have to also face the fact that the Republicans don't need Reagan once he gets reelected. Right now, he can do anything he wants. He can wander around in a jockstrap and with the. They would be in serious trouble if Reagan's temper or senility got out of control, because they wouldn't get elected. They could not elect George Bush on that sort of platform, and I doubt that Bush would run on it. He's the one who called Reaganomics voodoo economics a long time ago. Everything that has been said about Reagan, or is being said, has really been said before, and by people in his own party. But I really do think it's alarming that the change that will occur once and if he gets reelected, at that point you see a whole shift in priorities. The party doesn't need him. He doesn't need the party. And I think it would be an orgy of profit-taking of some sort, with the assumption being that probably a Democrat would win anyway the next time around. So it would be a sort of barricading the White House off and the Treasury Department and looting it. And, massive profits, a variety of wars with Nicaragua. And Mexico is being mentioned more and more as a possible target. You agree with that? Yeah? Invade those bastards. Boy. They've caused us enough trouble. Yeah. Well, the Russian ambassador to this country has mentioned missiles in Mexico. I heard this on TV one Sunday morning. Kind of a shock to hear a Russian speaking very rationally about missiles in Mexico. I was thinking, where in Mexico now? Yeah, there's a difference between Tijuana and Veracruz. But, I think that's, Canada. We haven't done too well with Canada either. The Prime Minister came out of the White House and talked about his peace initiative, and the White House leaked a sort of a backstairs statement that he was really a degenerate dope fiend anyway, and they wanted nothing to do with his peace plan because he was a freak, fool, and they said a smoker of dope, brain damage. I like Trudeau, and I think he has been a good prime minister. I'd vote for Trudeau in Canada. I wish he were president of this country. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Is she here? Yeah. I saw her at Montreal recently. She weighs about 200 pounds now. It's unsettling.
Doctor, over here to your left.
Stay there. I might.
We're going to go right over here to the left for a question now.
Doctor, how did you get off the island in your last book? I was under the impression that you were stranded there with your Hawaiian friend bringing you drugs and booze, and nobody wanted to see you. How did you get off the island?
No, you're the first person to ask that question. There are a lot of questions to ask about that book. I really can't. I'm not free to disclose it. That's a no-win. That's a no-win question for me. I thank you for asking it.
All right, well, any more books coming up?
Oh yeah, I'm late on another one now. I'm late on another one about Cubans and violence and the Keys. I seem to be getting more and more into Cubans and South America and cocaine. Well, I've been into that. I found that cocaine is far too dangerous a drug. No, it's not cocaine so much that's dangerous. It's the people who do it. Cocaine has been around for a long time, and as long as 1% of the population are just simple coke fiends, that's fine. Then it's just an eccentric tick. It's been around. It's like Negro musicians or something. It's it's colorful. But when 50% of the population turns into coke fiends, or even Negro musicians for that matter, then it's not a qualitative problem. It's quantitative. Or if people are into if 50% of the population drink gin all the time. There's nothing wrong with gin. But if I knew that half of you were seriously drunk on gin now, and there was a 50-50 chance that I may be too. How many people here are actually drunk right now? Okay. That's still only about 10%. See, the game would change if 50 people, or 50% of you were real drunk. And that would make gin a dangerous drug. I think as long as cocaine were restricted to the eccentric few like me, it's like handguns and swords and things like that. As long as just a few eccentrics carry them around, it's all right. When everybody's carrying swords and handguns or daggers, pints of gin and little bags of cocaine, that's dangerous.
Okay.
Yes, I haven't had any animals in a while. You bastard, he's dead.
Doctor?
Let's go over to this side for a question.
Yes,
Right
doctor. As an acknowledged expert in pioneering new fields of wasting away your leisure time, how do you cope with finally being bored with the basic 10 drugs? What recreationals do you turn to?
In terms of drugs or just or alternatives?
Oh, please, feel free to, don't feel limited.
Well, I turn to boats. And there's always violence, and there's always booze. And there's always politics. Yeah, you're right. Drugs have become, now that they're so widespread, it's not really an adventurous thing to do. It's interesting sometimes, but it really becomes more of a habit. It's like drinking beer. Yeah, my own cure has been to move down to islands in the South, and you can get in a lot of trouble with a fast boat if you don't know about the ocean at all. Yeah, it's like there are no lights on the ocean, and you know the roads, they're called channels, and they're just marked by extremely high poles mounted in concrete that if you hit, it destroys the whole boat and kills you right away. And the other thing about down in the Keys, the water's so shallow that you have to get the boat up on a plane, which means going fast, in order not to hit the bottom and destroy your engine. So to go slow and wallow around is going to get you in more trouble than just going at top speed with no lights on. You'd be driving from here. You drive from here to Bakersfield on roads at night that have no lights on. There are no street lights on the ocean. The boat has no lights. So you're just going at top speed in the darkness. And you don't really need drugs to get high on that. I had to wallow around in that one for a while, but it was a nice question. Thank you.
Well, let's go over to this side now. Another question?
Yeah, I was rereading The Boys in the Bag and The Scum Also Rises the other day, and
That's my favorite title, I think, of all. The most apt.
I was noticing the similarities between the Nixon administration and the present administration.
Well, they were amateurs.
Pardon me?
They were amateurs, Nixon, in terms of evil. Oh.
Well, knowing your affection for the Nixon administration, you once wrote that the combined jail sentences of the Watergate conspirators would blow the minds of high school students for the next 100 years. But now, 10 years later, Watergate gets a 4-line paragraph in history books, and professors are saying Nixon was just any other president who got caught. What is this? This seems to be, voters, too, in the re-election of Reagan, they seem to have this forgetfulness. Are they just assholes? What is this? What is the assessment? Do we get the president we deserve, like Adlai Stevenson said?
I think you've both asked and answered the question. That's what I said with Jimmy Carter. That was, and that was damn true. I believe that the thinking of the Reagan administration is precisely that people don't want to have to question the president's competence, or their thinking is that he's better off appearing to be some combination of John Wayne and the Sun King, and not caring about what goes on, and being in Santa Barbara when the Marines are being chased out of Lebanon. The assumption of this administration is that people, yes, would rather see that, would rather have a sort of symbolic monarch as a president than have some president like Carter, who was constantly embroiled in details and staying up all night to planning invasions, and meanwhile letting hundreds of thousands of Cubans into the country. That was a madhouse. That was one of the highest kinds of incompetence I've ever seen in politics. And I like those people. They were friends of mine. But the assumption is that what cost Carter the presidency was that he was perceived as being too busy, and he had sort of dirtied his hands with the everyday business of politics, and that what the American people want is really somebody. That's true too. You do wonder why we are the only nation in the world that is just afflicted with every drug that comes along is ever invented. Is taken up over here as just a routine kind of habit by almost everybody. Yeah, no nation in history of the world will be has been as affected by waves of weird drugs as this one. We do use almost all of them, and I'm not sure the French are certainly not free of a heroin problem, but they don't worry about it. The government doesn't worry about it. They don't have people prowling the streets all the time, locking up junkies. And they wonder why we're so alarmed about the drug imports from all over the world. And I think there are people in other countries thinking, what the hell's going on over there? Why is the opium poppy such a problem in Washington? We don't care about it. That's a question that's going to be answered, I think, in the election, the presidential election, if given 6 months to expose himself more and more, shamefully, yeah, in an embarrassing fashion. The president is not going to get smarter between now and November. He's not going to get any younger. He's not going to change his mind about anything. And there's no way they're going to be able to effect any sort of change, even with situations like the Secretary of the Treasury and the National Economics Advisor are almost getting in a fist fight in Congress over the deficit. We're in for a fairly bumpy ride to election time. I think what they had in mind in the White House was having all this thing come apart 6 months from now. The market crashing, wars in Iran and Mexico. Just let us get reelected first. I think this Lebanon thing took them by surprise. And it was a signal. You hear these signals at night if you're a politics junkie like I am. The phone rings and it's people you haven't heard from a while, and everybody, after 4 or 5 hours of a night like that Lebanon crisis, you begin to get a sense from the people who call that there may be more fun in running against this president than we thought last week, that he can be beaten. And in fact, that's probably a perception of mine that hadn't been real strong until recently. I thought to my chagrin, whatever that's a bad word for it, but they seem to be so slick that no matter what I thought, they were still going to win by a 60-40 or more. I don't think that anymore. I think they're not nearly as slick as we thought. And we took it for granted they were dumb, greedy, and mean. But it appeared for a while with, let's say, the case of Grenada, where they actually launched an invasion and made it appear that American power, military might, was not only effective but chic and colorful and harmless. I was in Grenada I spent about 6 weeks with the 82nd Airborne down there, and it was nice. It was wonderful. I think about 8 Marines were killed in combat-related incidents, and that happens every day on every exercise. Oh yeah, 1 person a day is moderate. For something like we should check the casualty figures for Big Pine too. That's taken for granted. In Fort Bragg, I think that's probably the case. If you go out and play with hand grenades and lambs and bazookas and landmines, people are going to be killed. Just learning how to do it. But they did sell Grenada as evidence that the U.S. can still use the carrot and the stick at the same time. But essentially, Grenada was a PR move to take attention off of the disaster that had happened in Iran 2 days earlier, when 239 Marines were killed by that one blast in the compound. The invasion of Grenada, which is essentially just another exercise that had been planned and rehearsed for a while, was done, and it was a very skillful move. It took public opinion, the public focus away from a genuine disaster in Lebanon. It had been since the Battle of Bull Run or Iwo Jima, or maybe even Gettysburg, since that many Americans have been killed in combat in one day. And no single day in the Vietnam War were 239 American casualties taken. And within 24 hours, that was the focus on that was changed very skillfully to the peaceful and happy invasion of Grenada with 10-1 public approval. But it didn't last very long. We had to go back to Lebanon. That didn't go away. And I think it was George Will the other night, a right-wing columnist who speaks for the White House, a nice guy and a smart guy, who said that what the administration has learned lately now is that if we're going to play around with the use of American military power in the world, we had better stick to places like Grenada. That comes from the president's, a man who helped him rehearse for the Carter debates in the 1980 election, which I think it's fine. I'm a bit partisan myself in politics, but we just want to keep in mind that that's what George Will, a spokesman for the White House, has said, and that's pretty alarming, that we can't use American military might anywhere except in, it's like saying invading India or some surfing community. That we simply can't take on the mean powers in the world, and that they're ready to take us on. So that's a change in things. It isn't as if we can. Our final option is just to say, well, the hell with them. We can't even understand their goddamn language. Man, pull the thing, and they'll go away. They're just Arabs. What the hell? they won't go away, and the thing doesn't always work. So I believe this is a change in our attitude vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and it's going to be real different. Nobody in this country has ever assumed that we couldn't make our policies work and we couldn't scare the rest of the world into accepting them, whether they liked it or not. That's changing now, and it's going to send a wave of nervousness across the country. During an election year, that's unhealthy. So let's get another question.
Okay. We wanted to go over here for a question.
Dr. Thompson, considering you're the consummate political junkie, is there any chance of your repeating your 1970 run in Aspen for sheriff or any other higher office in Colorado?
Well, I'd cite you. Hello, how are you? Walter Mondale, who said who quit the presidential race, maybe 2 years before, somewhere back in the 70s, saying he didn't have the stomach to run for politics. It was too ugly a business. He didn't want to run for president, and just quit, dropped out, which I admired. And so have I. I've done that. But you notice that Mondale's running for president now. And I would hope that I would not get involved in politics physically. It's not nearly as much fun as to get involved in it in a more criminal way, an underground way. Yeah, I would. I enjoy being part of the conspiratorial aspect of politics, but not making. This is as close as I can come to making a speech. I don't believe I've convinced a lot of you should vote for me, but that's not what I was trying to do.
Okay, on this side, another question.
Doctor, you've been described as a world-class paranoid. I wonder,
Who's talking?
I'm sorry, he's
right here. Up there with Nixon and Khomeini and those friendly people. Right. My question is this due to your chemical recreation, or are there actually people after you, and who are they?
Well, anybody who undervalues the reality of paranoia in this world, to me, seeing just a touch on the face side, there is no such thing as paranoia. I've said that for years. It's just a matter of ignorance. The president really is what I've said he is, and these things are happening. And I think paranoia is just sort of an early warning system. I don't recall anything that let's take something like Watergate, where you think the worst, and it turns up later that you really just had a bad dream, that the president isn't a crook, really, you just thought he was, and Agnew wasn't sitting in the White House taking wads of $10,000 bills from people sneaking in the back door of the executive office building, that James Watt was not insane. It was hard to get paranoid about James Watt. He beat you every time. You'd think he couldn't get any worse than this. My God, Watt. He can't sell the nation's coal supply. That's out of the question. He can't sell the redwoods. He can't sell the Santa Barbara coast. Yeah, he could. And he was trying to. And he wasn't some maverick that got sunk into the administration. They hired him. He did his job. And his job was also, when he got so hot and so embarrassing, he was going to be dumped. That was a political move. The president never got outraged at James Watt. He was just no longer useful. That thing about Jews, cripples, and whatever, I don't think the president was bothered by that. It was just it was politically unwise to have Watt around, and so they got more mileage out of firing him. But Watt was an evil swine. So was it? Yeah, you tell me what paranoia might consist of these days.
Do you think Nixon is still dangerous, or has he been pacified?
Well, no, personally, I think he's kind of fun these days. But his Supreme Court is dangerous, yeah, and so will Ronald Reagan's be if he gets 4 more appointees in the next 4 years. Nixon did his damage with the court. That's changed the tribunal of final appeal in this country to you know what's going to happen in the Supreme Court now. You don't take any more civil rights cases to the Supreme Court. You don't take any cases that might be Drano.
Bankruptcy cases.
What's going on? I'm trying to yeah. I'm trying to go with it. I got a drug problem here in front of me. Well, I don't. So, excuse me. I might. Yeah. Well, you said you had no drugs. Well, you Moonies, right? How many are you? Yeah, it's like a bunch of Moonies. Amels?
Yeah.
We go out to the Polo Lounge and just do Amels for lunch. Yeah.
Dr. Hunter. Dr. Hunter. Could
He's
yeah,
ready.
Oh, God.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Right. I'm sorry.
There you
sorry,
go.
they fooled me. He's right there.
It all comes out of this box right here.
I'd love some comments on the White House press corps and Grenada, and then assuming that the White House press corps is simply prostituted for the good of the administration.
People are big on prostitution here right here.
What do the American people have to do to get someone like you to cover the White House, at least for maybe a couple weeks?
There's no way at all. I would despise that personally, and
Well, who's going to cover it fair? I mean, who's going to play by the American rules and not the administration's? You know?
well, I think that in the past 2 weeks, you've seen some of the sort of main cogwheels turn. I noticed.
Cog or clog?
Well, just wheels, cogwheel.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
thinking of there are certain people in the media who sort of speak for the media, and politically, I'm thinking of people like David Broder, Anthony Lewis, people Brinkley, Chancellor. There are certain voices that really say that do more than report the news. And I was despairing myself. I noticed that after the president, a few months ago, I think his last press conference, had spoken twice in a matter of a week about his firm belief in the concept of Armageddon, and that the Book of Revelation was really the what he read at night instead of what he claims to be his homework he takes up from the White House. And he's never down in the office. He claims he works at night up there with his homework. That's bullshit. He watches television. And gets excited. His wife gets excited about the drug problem and Mr. T. And it's a degrading thing to see that bastard in the White House.
The White House and cover it, right?
I guess the truth is I would if I had to, but only I might do it for. It'd be a brief thing though. The trouble with politics is you get hung up on it, and you don't just go into the White House once. In order to get the proper attitude with them and stance, you sort of have to be around for a while. And it's not enough to go in there and say that, well, I know you're lying or I know you're wrong. It takes a while to achieve that sort of balance with them where they know that they're wrong too. And when you see Larry Speaks on TV, behind the president at a press conference, standing back over in this wing, for instance, while Reagan is staring out at the 200 reporters in the press room, and the story on this is Harding Carter's press thing he does on PBS. They were talking about the White House staffers worried about the president being just a little bit. His attention span is not long, and he forgets his own cabinet people's names and the people who work for him. And that was the thrust of the story, and that. Basically, they were saying that the staff people have a hard time controlling the president. That's why they don't let him out at press conferences. And behind Reagan, over in this wing, it was clear that the camera up in that balcony saw it, and that it seemed to me that all the rest of the press people saw it, was Speaks going, like this, desperately, and pointing at the president, who couldn't see him. And I thought, oh my God, who is in charge here? Here's essentially a sort of a teenage punk who inherited the job from Brady, who's never even been appointed press secretary, on national television, giving the giant hook to the president, and not even a signal to the president. They could have flashed him on his beeper. Apparently, he doesn't. He has various scrolls and things in front of him. But no, Speaks was talking to the cameras. Stop this. Cut this off. Don't let that bastard run anymore. It was shocking. It was like the Joint Chiefs turning unanimously on the president. That's something you don't see. We're seeing signs here that are just not normal. The Secretary of the Navy saying utterly contradictory things. The president actually abandoning Washington and uttering a different policy from whatever was coming out of the White House, refusing to admit that he was going to cut and run. And this is 6 months, 7 months away. Yeah, it may be necessary, or it might even be fun to see the fall of the House of Reagan.
Well, if you did
brought down by its own weight.
If you did it, I think you'd find a lot of anxious readers. It'd be an interesting topic.
Well, aren't you going to collect a whole bunch of checks here? I get my expense fund. I need a lot of stimulants to go cover that White House.
We have time for a couple more questions, so we'll go over to this side now.
About senility.
Maybe you can come, right? Send your friend back to the...
About senility, the president is giving us the benefit of his wisdom. I do have a question. Do you think Jesse Jackson would be an effective running mate for Walter Mondale?
I'll run for president.
There we go. There.
Yeah.
That should be. There you go.
All right.
You're fine.
Only if Mondale needs Jackson to, if Mondale perceives he needs Jackson to beat Reagan, and for that to happen, Jackson's going to have to bring out a lot of votes and show very strongly, not in New Hampshire so much as in the southern states, the next primaries. If that's how politics works. If Mondale needs Jackson in order to pick up 10% more or win 5 southern states, yes. I enjoy Jackson. I think he's brought a lot of life to the campaign. And in a crunch, I'd still vote for McGovern. But I would not be surprised to see Jesse Jackson running with Mondale. But I wouldn't really anticipate it either, because I don't think that... No, I bet against it. Just because I don't think Mondale is going to need him at the convention. I don't think the Democratic race is going to turn into a two-man contest by then, where the 10% of the vote that Jackson could bring to Mondale would be decisive. You bet he'll be there if Mondale needs his 10%, and he can deliver it. I would be there. If I had 10%, I could deliver it. I would be vice president. But at the moment, I don't anticipate Mondale requiring that. He won't be forced to make that deal. It wouldn't bother him. I think, that's how politics works. So anybody who will bring them, as George Bush did with Reagan, he brought Texas into the fold. He brought some of the Eastern Republican money and respectability or patina of it. Yeah, we could see Jesse Jackson as vice president if Mondale needs him. And meanwhile, I think Jesse brings a lot of, he elevates the level of the dialogue, as does McGovern and Cranston. Yeah. As long as Jesus, yeah, control these people down. As long as people like Cranston and Jackson, McGovern are in the race, it makes the others little more honest. They can't get away with all the bullshit that they would normally throw at us. And in that sense, it's very valuable.
Okay, another question over here.
Hunter, let me allow me to set the scene for you. 1889, President Jesse Jackson has asked you to travel to the Soviet Union and represent America as a goodwill ambassador.
I'd be barred by the USIA.
And in addition to that, he's asked you to head off a nuclear attack on Iran. But let me say one more thing. Sybil Shepherd has has invited you down to the Bahamas for a week-long Coke and fuck party. What will you do?
I would probably agree to go to Russia and then go to the Bahamas anyway. And
take Sybil with you.
I would send somebody. I would send somebody to do a preliminary tour of the Russian situation, and I would retire to the Bahamas to await the report of my envoy. And I would say that if he came back with the right message, I would then go from the Bahamas to Russia and settle the problem. If he came back with gibberish and bullshit, of course I'd stay in the Bahamas. I think that's a smart thing to do, don't you?
I'd say so.
Can I ask if you've ever been approached to make any of your work into a film? Would you ever consider that, or do you consider Hollywood scum worse than political scum? Yeah, excuse me, there was one, Where the Buffalo Roam. Did you ever want to see any of your other works? Oh, sorry. Okay.
What made you do that? You were doing so well.
I'm sorry. You want to take one more from this side?
Evil question.
We'll take the last question from this side.
Yes, earlier you mentioned the proverbial carrot and stick in relationship to Grenada.
Somebody's talking, I know that.
Turning that around a little bit, I was wondering if you considered sex with vegetables sodomy or just good nutrition.
Sex with vegetables. It sounds like it's sort of just a vegetarian or health freak's version of the old cigar box full of liver. I don't know. Sex with vegetables. It sounds like desperation to me, or some. I don't want to even hear about that. That's ugly.
I was just considering a more passive lifestyle.
Chickens, goats, whatever, but not vegetables. I don't think. Unless you know something I don't. Jesus Christ, that's ugly.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay. Well.
Can't hear.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, our hour has come to a close. I want to thank each and every one of you for attending. And, of course, we'd like to thank Dr. Thompson for being here with us. We wish you luck on your tour.
Your friend.